great open day you've got tomorrow, haven't you?
Yes, yeah, we're really, really excited. It's all day tomorrow and it's at the Birmingham Museum Collection Centre, which is basically Birmingham Museum's off-site store where it holds all the objects that aren't currently on display. So it's a big day and it's full of exploring the collections, and we've got just jam-packed full of activities for lots of everybody to do. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So is this a bit like a sort of supermarket warehouse with all these range, and you can go down and look up? Is that how it works?
Yeah, we had one member of the public that described it as Indiana Jones meets IKEA, which we think is pretty good. So it's that kind of adventure, that exploring the collections. You don't know what you're going to get around the next corner with the racking system of IKEA. So, and the organisation of IKEA, we like to think as well.
Meatballs and things at the end of the
no
road?
Meatballs,
well?
though. No, but we do have a lot of street food tomorrow.
You
so
do?
It's going to be fancy fries, crepes, snow cones, lots of different things. So lots going on.
I mean, all these, when we say they're in these racks, are they actually wrapped up, to protect them, and you're just going to take them out their wrappings just for tomorrow?
So in the warehouse area, which is where everyone gets to look around, on the lowest levels, it is literally all out on display. So it's not like in the museum when they're in display cases. They're all out for everybody to see. And we've set it up so there's labels next to the objects that give you a bit of the history, a bit about why we've got them, some interesting facts about them. So you really can just walk around and have a look and just see. And we've just got things next to each other, so like a World War I motorbike, next to a piece of taxidermy, next to some 1950s shoes. It's really, you don't know what you're going to get around the next corner, so it's really exciting. So
it sounds good. I mean, it's the biggest single thing that you've had to be sitting there writing "Do not touch" signs.
Yes, they are everywhere. Please, if you do come tomorrow, do not touch the objects. We do have to be really careful because we're caring for them and we have to preserve them for the long haul. So yeah, we do say no touching, but it's so out on the open that it's easy to see without needing to. So
I mean, will you take more or less anything because it's got some antique value?
We have to be most museums now have to be really strict, and every museum you'll find has got a collecting policy. So every 3 years it's updated and the museum sets out what they're going to collect for that year, and it'll normally be, it has to have a very strict, relation to Birmingham and whatever else they need to collect for that 3 years. And if they don't, we can't take it, and if somebody offers us something, we say, try this museum or whatever, just because museums are running out of space and they can't literally take everything.
So a bit picky then?
So it has to be a little bit picky, yeah, really. You have to be careful, otherwise we'll run out of space and then we can't collect and then we can't be a museum as such. So yeah, we have to be careful.
Do you sometimes get calls from people and say, I'm not sure if you might be interested, and then when you see it you think, wow? Yeah.
I mean, me personally, we can kind of get the calls and they'll say, we've got an object, would you like to see it? And then we have to direct it to the curator, whoever's responsible for that collection. So it might be that somebody rings up and says, I've got something of interest, I've got a motorbike that you might like. That'll then go to the science industry curator and they get the fun part of seeing all that, those kind of things. I'll see it if it ends up coming to the collection centre.
So you don't actually go climbing up ladders in people's houses in dusty attics and thinking, wow,
that'll
look
be
at
great.
This. Yeah.
No, we don't. They'll give us a ring, and then I think the curators would normally say, send us some pictures or give us more of a description, and then we can check the collection to see if we've already got one or that kind of thing. So.
How important is the condition of pieces to you? Because I presume sometimes there can be quite old stuff that isn't in the best of nick, but it is so important that you will still take it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if it's if it fits the collecting policy, and it it's in a stable condition, then they'd take it if that is what the curators wanted for their collection. So yeah, it just depends on the situation really.
What's the best thing that's come the museum's way of late?
Oh gosh, well, I am in love with the Staffordshire Hoard. That I know it came quite a few years ago.
And why not?
But it's just incredible, and in the gallery, it's amazing. They've done it really well, so it's really amazing. But me personally, with museums, is the more behind the scenes kind of storage side of it, and I love to go and have a good mooch. And so the collection centre really is a bit of a gem, and you can just have such an explore and a little adventure. So that's my favourite part.
So when they say, where is Emily?
Yes.
She'll be in the store.
I'll be in the stores. I'm always in the stores, having a look around the objects, making sure they're well documented and they're in the right place and they're being cared for. So.
So tomorrow between 10 and 4:30 you can go and see what it is that fascinates Emily so much. What sort of things aren't on exhibition then at the Birmingham Museum that you've got tucked away in your racks?
So it's basically all the collection areas. So we've got science industry collection, or you've got the natural history collection, or the social history collection, and a lot more archaeology, different things. And they've got certain amounts obviously on display in the museum, but then everything else is at the collection centre. So you've got the classic cars, motorbikes, fire engines. We've got kind of the ancient Greek and ancient Roman objects, like glassware and things like that. Ancient Egyptian objects, like the funerary objects, like shabti, which were small objects that would have gone in the tombs and they would work for you in the afterlife. Just a complete range of different objects, and that's why it's kind of fascinating to be there, because you just don't know what you're going to get when you kind of walk around the corner. So
how do you decide what's going to go on display and what's going to go in the secret corner?
Yeah, so in the secret corner. So basically, the curators and the senior managers, they'll discuss what they would like on display at the museum. So we've got the kind of long-term permanent galleries, and then we've got the temporary galleries, and they discuss with the exhibitions team what they would like to come up and what they would like to go in there. And then once they've decided, that's when it'll come back to us and the curators, and we'll sort out where we've got to get it down from in the racking, and I might have to go up in the forklift truck and get it off the racking for them. So.
In case you're wondering why Emily mentioned the forklift truck, I told her before we started this program that I had found out that she is qualified to drive a forklift truck.
I am. Two.
Two? Why two?
One of them is just your bog standard forklift truck to move stuff around the collection centre, because it's so big and some stuff is very heavy. And the other one is for the narrow aisle, so to be able to go into the aisles and then go up to the 9 metres and bring things down from the shelves. So I needed both.
If ever you left there, you could go and work in a supermarket.
I could.
And you'd be
go
away,
to
wouldn't you?
I could go to IKEA. Go to all the.
In all seriousness, though, I mean, if you are getting stuff down like this, I mean, do you ever think?
Yeah, I get very kind of sweaty palms going up there. So the collection centre used to be a stationery depot for the city council. So if I'd have gone up in the truck then and got, a pallet worth of pencils and rubbers down, not a problem. But going up and bringing down artefacts that, are very precious, no matter what the price, they're very precious to us, it's a little bit nerve-wracking.
Because I suppose with some things, it's almost impossible to put a price on them, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And we get that question a lot when we do tours at the collection centre and the visitors come in to have a little look around. And we'll get a question of, what's the most expensive object? But really, they are all priceless, whether that's because they are really expensive or whether it's because the stories behind them are really priceless. So what might mean something to one person means something different to another. So.
And the rarity value obviously is a factor, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So it's just, some of them are really rare. Some of them we've got, Singer sewing machines, we might have 2 or 3 of them, but again, it's that story behind them. If it's got a unique story and it's, priceless.
We've talked about this warehouse with all the things that aren't actually on display that people can come and see.
Yep.
Just to give us some idea, I mean, when people say the 70 square foot doesn't mean anything to me, how many sort of big racks have you got and how many things have you got tucked away?
Oh my gosh, that is a tough
Roughly?
question. Well, it's a huge site. I
Yes.
can't give it in
That's big,
exact.
okay.
It's huge.
Right.
We have got racks and racks and racks and racks of objects, and they go 9 metres high in the air. And
That's pretty big, isn't it?
Yep, and we've got between 800,000 and just under 1 million objects in the collection altogether. That includes the ones at the museum on display and also those on display at our heritage site. So as part of Birmingham Museum Trust, there's 9 of us. So there's the main museum and art gallery, Think Tank Science Museum, our heritage sites, and then the collection centre. And we store everything that's not on display at those sites. So a very big collection, all needs well looking after by us.
So many of these displays and things these days, they always say, bring your kids, there are interactive displays. Are you interactive?
We're not interactive. We've always been that kind of store environment, so it's very much more that behind the scenes. So in terms of the actual open day tomorrow, although you've got the kind of advantage of it being all out on display for everyone to see, for family-friendly kind of events, we've brought things in. So the education team are on site doing lots of different arts and craft things. We've got the Falconry Centre, who are amazing, and they're putting beautiful falconry displays on. Face painter, and then the street food. So we've kind of got lots of different things going on to kind of enhance that kind of exploring feeling to make it more family friendly. So we're not interactive or digital.
No. Is there, I mean, there's a great sense of history. I think people have perhaps more today than maybe a few years ago. We are into our history, aren't we? I mean, we've had the anniversaries of the First World War, Second World War. The Queen's just become the longest serving monarch. She's just had a jubilee and so on. And so everybody's kind of looking back and they're engaged, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And with tomorrow, what we've managed to do is get some of the curators who are normally based at the main museum. They're going to come down and talk about their favourite objects and actually tell you more about the objects. So whereas before at open days, you can have a little look around and the labels are there and we're there to ask. We've actually enabled to get some of the curators down who have got that real expertise knowledge. So there's 3 of those going to be there and they're great and they're going to talk more about the objects so you can hear more of the history. But yeah, we're all so used to all the objects that we just love telling those little stories, and the stories are the best part of it. So,
did they all get to choose what their favourite object was? Did they say, no, I'm going to do that, that's me?
They are picking objects from their specific collection. So we've got the social history collection, and I think the social history curator Jo is bringing out some of the dolls' houses and things like that, maybe. And don't quote me on that. But yeah, she's bringing out her favourite bits and she'll chat to you about it. So yeah.
And so far as people who come round, I mean, is it an older audience or not?
It depends. On the open afternoons, which is where we open the centre the last Friday of every single month from 1:30 till 3:30, and you've got to book onto that. Normally on a Friday it's the retired people, they can come and have a look. But the last year or so we've been reaching out to the younger audience as well, and they seem to be coming, and as we're working more with universities and schools, they're coming down a lot more. And because the site is so varied and because so many different people use it for different things like education, like research, like enthusiasts, we do kind of get a whole range of different ages and everything. So that target audience tends to be whoever really wants to engage with the collection.
And I mean, you mentioned a little earlier about the Staffordshire Hoard, which I mean has had huge publicity and is a major attraction. That would get people through the doors for sure, wouldn't it? And then they'd have a look around at everything else.
But that's all at the main museum and art gallery, whereas the collection centre is in Nechells. It's a little bit further out. It's 5 minutes from New Street train station kind of thing. But yeah, so everyone would go and see the Staffordshire Hoard. And then we've got everything else.
What's top of the pile that's actually out on display in your collection at the moment for you then?
For me, it's a tough one because there's so many objects and I just love going and exploring them all. But for me, like I've said, with the stories behind them, that's what really gets me. So a couple of months ago, we had a gentleman ring up and say, you know, have you got my motorbike? I gave it to the Science and Industry Museum, which was in Newhall Street. That's now closed. Have you got it? I gave it you in the 1970s. Well, when that science museum shut down, the museum, Birmingham Museums took on that collection, and we house it at the collection centre, which is another reason why it's great that people can come and have a look. And I managed to say, yep, we've got it, come on down. He brought his family. The joy on his face when he saw the object again was just amazing. So I've always loved history at school. I always loved it. It was my favourite subject, and I think that kind of came from my grandpa, who absolutely loves history. You can sit and talk to him about history for days. He will just keep going unless you say, Grandpa, I've got to go now. So he really kind of loves it, and that's probably what inspired me. And I just had the best teacher. So I did history at school and my A-levels, and then I went to do archaeology at Sheffield University, which was great. And I went on a dig, on an excavation.
I was just wondering if you did,
Yeah, I did just the one. It wasn't for me. I loved it, and I loved being being there and seeing what was going on. But it was more the finds afterwards. So anything that they'd come across in their digs, even if it was the tiniest pottery sherd or the tiniest little bit of animal bone or anything like that, once it came back to us, we had the opportunity to sit and filter through it and have a look. And it was the recording of the finds and actually doing a bit of research behind them and seeing what we'd got, which really inspired me, and finding the background to it. And at the collection centre with all the objects, I get to sit and catalogue it all and document it and find those stories, and that's what gets me.
And you must feel for all the things that have been found and are found that
Yeah.
there must be lots of stuff out there if,
Yeah.
if only we could get to it.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of places, and I'm sure there's lots of kind of underwater, under the sea kind of places too, which marine archaeology is getting quite big as well. So.
If you think we found one of our kings under a car park in Leicester not so very long ago.
Exactly. So you just never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's now you've also worked at a transport museum, haven't you?
Yep. So before I was working at the Birmingham Museum, Aston Manor Road Transport Museum had shut in Birmingham, and it moved to near to where I live. And I kind of gave them a ring and said, I work in collections management. Would you like me to pop down and see if I can help? Because they're all voluntary run there. And they just kind of said, here's the collection. We've just got it all stored away because we've just had to move from Birmingham. Do something, and I kind of went from there and put it into order, and I've got a lovely little team there and help out as and when I can.
So before you go with your broom to clear up in readiness for tomorrow, just remind everybody where they've got to be and how they find out more.
Yep, so it's separate from the main museum and art gallery. It's in Nechells, so it's 25 Dolman Street, and the nearest train station is Duddeston. So you can get that from New Street train station, and it'll take you straight to Duddeston. Or we've got a free bus service, courtesy of Aston Manor Road Transport Museum, and that's going from near Snow Hill train station in Birmingham every single hour. There's only one per hour, so get there quick.